I'm Ashley.
Hi, Ashley.
And I'm Alex.
Ashley and Alex. That's going to keep me on my toes.
I know.
Can you hear her okay? You're fine? Okay. And you hear everybody okay over there, Nancy?
I'm hearing everybody fine. Thank you.
Okay. I'm probably the worst person you'll hear over here. All right. So you are live. So you're going to do intro show, but you're going to close it off, do another show, right? Okay. Do that all at your convenience, basically. We'll just keep recording. All right. I'll try to keep an eye on things over here. And ready?
Yes.
3, 2.
Greetings and welcome to a continuing series of educational rounds at Sinclair, an integrative holistic psychiatric facility where we treat people, not necessarily diagnoses. My name is Jim Ellermeyer. I'm a behavioral health therapist, and today I'm joined by two of my colleagues and one very special colleague. So on my left would be
Alex. I'm a PA student from Duquesne University.
And on my right?
I'm Ashley. I'm an art therapy intern at Seton Hill University.
And as always, every week, what we attempt to do is bring you some type of knowledge, perhaps you hadn't been exposed to in the past, that can you incorporate in your daily life and actually make a difference. And today I'm so privileged to have us joined by a dear friend of ours who's been a guest on this show before, and that would be Nancy Fitzgerald. Thank you so much for joining us today, Nancy.
My pleasure, Jim. Great to see you again.
It's certainly nice to see you too. Could you tell us a little bit about your background, Nancy, and where you're coming from today?
Well, my background is that I was a chemistry major in college. I taught physical science and chemistry for a while in the Pittsburgh City Schools. Then I took a leave of absence to go to chemical engineering school and ended up working for Alcoa, the Aluminum Company of America, for 20 years. I retired from there when I was 52, and since then I have been free to work and give and contribute and learn as I choose. Soon after I retired from Alcoa, I found A Course in Miracles, which for me has been the deepest, truest, most practical guidebook that I've ever known. And I'm still working with it more and more instead of less and less. There's more things I do to share it. You want to ask a question or make a comment?
Well, you mentioned I was caught there. You retired at 52, and you felt a call to teach and serve and give. Could you say a little bit more about that?
Well, I actually was able to convince myself I could volunteer for retirement at that stage when there was a lot of layoffs happening, because I found another course called Your Money or Your Life, which helped me figure out what enough money would be for me, and to realize that with what I'd saved and what I thought I could live on, that I could do that. So I just sort of went off thinking the worst would happen and I'd get a part-time job, which I worked for money for a few different things, but more what I wanted to work for than what was needed to make money.
So quite often what we do here, Nancy, is help people to understand the difference between pleasure and joy. And certainly money can buy a lot of materialistic things that can give you perhaps much pleasure. But it sounds to me like at age 52, you were looking to have some joy and spread some joy in your life.
Yes, I found that I'd gone as far as seemed to make sense for me in my career. And instead, I was ready to just choose whatever I wanted to do. It seemed like for the longest time, I would work really hard so I would be ready for later. So I worked hard in high school so I could get to college. I worked hard in college so I could get a job. I worked hard at my job, and then I switched jobs even because it didn't seem like I could keep doing teaching for my whole career. Then I didn't actually last what many people would consider a whole career, even in engineering. I guess it just finally seemed like I was doing what other people expected me to do, and I was ready to explore and find out what matched me better.
So you began to do some introspection on yourself. These young people that are with me today, Nancy, they're in the physician's assistance program in particular is what I call a torture test. That's more of a endurance run than a learning experience. And if you stand at the end, you win. So these young people are subjected to a great deal of stress and anxiety. But they're basically trying to ram 4 years of medical schooling into 2. Ashley is in the midst of her master's degree, and then I'm sure you know what's involved in all of that. Plus, they're trying to integrate social life, romantic interests in there. So what I'm hearing is you at age 52, where most people are in the midst of their climax of their career, you had a moment of clarity. So could you tell us a little bit about that moment of clarity? I'm always interested in that.
Well, I think the light bulb went on for me when during the practice of the 9 steps of your money or your life, I realized that I could in fact retire and have enough money to live on, that I would have enough. I knew I had been able to quantify what enough was for me. I'd been pointed back to myself to ask myself for each expenditure whether I felt I'd gotten satisfaction and joy from that expenditure of life energy. It was converted to life energy and not just dollars. And did that expenditure align with my life purpose and values? So as I did that for a year or so, and I finally realized that numerically it seemed to work. It would mean that I would be financially independent, not wealthy, but knowing that I didn't have to work for somebody else to have enough money to continue to do whatever I chose to do, whatever that happened to be.
That took a lot of courage, and there are many people out there who live their life on wishes and hopes and wait for something to happen. But what I'm hearing is you made it happen.
I did make the choice. I actually volunteered to my supervisor that if he needed to lay someone off, I knew there was pressure to have more and more people, numbers reduced, that I would be willing to go. I've never seen such a relieved supervisor in my life. They gave me another 2 or 3 months to finish up what I was working on, and gave me a kind of a package. I had a reduced pension that started early, and I got to 65, 66, then I took Social Security. Now I feel absolutely rich, frankly. I have all of it.
That's really tremendous. So you made a choice and you switched your life totally around. What type of comments, what type of observations, questioning, criticism did you get from those around you, those in your relationship circle?
If people were talking about it too much, I don't remember that I heard one way or the other. The people who did say something were kind of amazed and glad for me. It was okay with them if I went off and did that. I didn't relocate. I was still at that time in Pittsburgh, and I just started doing more of the things that I liked. I volunteered more with my church at the time. I actually took up a consulting job, part-time consulting job on developing a diversity training course for the Pittsburgh police for a little while. I traveled. I was able to help out with other people around when somebody was ill. Instead of being in a 9-to-5 schedule forever, I was able to say, okay, I can go stay with that person or take food or whatever.
And what you always talk about, what I always hear from you is kind of the philosophy that we espouse here, where is to be in every moment and live in every moment and pay attention to, on purpose, to what is happening right in front of us. And that's, could you tell us a little, could you share with the folks out there, the folks who's watching this, some of the students here, what it's like to live that type of life? What if it's like to actually participate in your life?
Well, I have to say that it's been a gradual process, and it feels to me like one thing that happens is you literally feel lighter and lighter. There's fewer and fewer things that are agitating or upsetting. And at this point, I'm practiced in watching my mind for the things that do upset me. So when I notice something, I've gotten down to some pretty subtle things, but the upset can feel just as big because now it's become a signal to me. And so whenever there's anything that's an upset, I'm noticing it in some way and basically looking at it and saying, okay, I see you. Look at that. I'm upset because, and I can name it for myself. And then I say, I don't want to be there. I don't want to be in that ego thought system. I'd rather be in joy or happiness. And so I'm going to set that aside and leave it be taken care of on its own. And I'm going to go back to focusing on something that's true.
So that's, again, we get back to conscious choice. And when you say you watch yourself, that tells me that what I basically operate under is mindfulness-based cognitive behavioral therapy, where we ask people to become the observer behind the thinker, and that's kind of what you're saying, Gus. Tell me, Alex, would you like to live a life like Nancy's?
Yeah, sounds pretty good.
Would you like to be free from the anxiety? You would step out of that bubble and turmoil, that quicksand of anxiety and depression?
Absolutely. Who wouldn't?
Well, how about you, Ashley?
Oh, definitely.
So in our next podcast, what we're going to be exploring is the actual Course in Miracles that Nancy got involved in and incorporated into her life, and really for her is a design for living, and which she can share with us and share with you. It's not just telling someone when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. It's actually giving you the pitcher and the water and the instructions and the spoon and the lemons and everything that you need to actually do it. You need to actually do it. So we'll be joining Nancy again at our next podcast.
That's good. You're looking good online, by the way.
Who is?
All of you. Especially you, Jim.
They always tell me that I have a face for radio, Nancy. How about that? What type of friends are they? Well, then we're going to continue, Nancy, and we'll get into the Course of Miracles now, if you care to, if you have a little bit of time.
I do indeed.
Oh, great! I'm so appreciative of you getting together with, and I'm also so appreciative of my dear friend Ruth Ann, who hooked us up.
Yes, I appreciate that too. It's fun to have this kind of an audience, a forum.
All right, you ready? I'm confused because you're also talking in my other ear. Here we go. In 3, 2.
Hello, and welcome to our continuing educational rounds here at Sinclair, where we attempt to bring something that you could integrate into your lives, some type of knowledge, some type of action, some type of behavior, which would enhance your health and wellness, your personal, spiritual health and wellness in your life. My name is Jim Ellermeyer. I'm a behavioral health therapist, and today I'm joined by 2 of my colleagues. On my left would be...
I'm Alex. I'm a PA student from Duquesne University.
And on my right?
I'm Ashley. I'm an art therapy intern from Seton Hill University.
And once again, we're joined by a very special guest via what I call magic over the internet, Nancy Fitzgerald. Thank you so much for joining us again, Nancy.
My pleasure.
In our last podcast, Nancy gave us a little bit of her background, her philosophy, the moment of clarity in her life, where she chose between pleasure and joy, and thankfully for us, joy won out. She talked to us about making conscious decisions in her life and how to make them. And the particular method that she used, what she found in her life, was something called A Course in Miracles. Could you tell us what A Course in Miracles is for those who perhaps are unfamiliar with it?
It's actually a book at this point, and it came from a voice that was heard by Helen Schuckman and her boss at Columbia Medical School, where they were both psychotherapists and professors, helped her bring that voice to the world. He did the typing, and she took the messages in the shorthand, and every morning they went early to work, and he would help type it and put it in place. It took 7 years for her to receive all of it. It's a text. It's a 365 workbook, one a day workbook lessons. And in addition, there's a manual for teacher, clarification of terms, a psychotherapy pamphlet, and a song of prayer. So it's more than 1,000 pages of a course, basically a teaching for how to change your perspective so that you can find peace. The purpose, the goal of the course is actually to help each of us learn how to find and choose peace or joy or happiness, whatever it is that you want to call it, but it's basically that calm, satisfied, loving place to be.
That sounds wonderful. And of course, there are many, there are always detractors for every particular message out there. They look at the medium, they look at the messenger. However, what impresses me about this Course in Miracles is the message itself, Nancy. And from what I see that Helen and William Thetford were able to put down on paper and get across to people had a whole lot to do with basically it's about forgiveness. Could you talk to us about that?
Yes, forgiveness is the mechanism that I use to open myself to being able to forgive myself. So it's all about a relationship between me and anybody else that I'm with. And when I forgive someone, I'm able to overlook the kinds of things that are there and actually see the truth of them, which is always innocent and pure and holy. And then that allows me to make an opening so that I can forgive myself for the same kinds of things.
Absolutely. So from what I understand, some of the thought is there that resentment happens in what they call the ego world. However, it doesn't happen in the spiritual, and it's about seeing the spark of the divine in others.
Yeah, the way I imagine it is that there's actually two thought systems, and only two, which makes it an easy choice. One is the thought system of fear. If I am feeling resentment, anxiety, depression, attack, anger, any of those kind of feelings, I'm in the ego fear thought system. And then the other thought system, which is kind of like a quantum leap away from fear, is the love thought system. And so when I'm happy, joyful, peaceful, calm, then I'm operating from love and in love. And to get from one to the other, I have to make a distinct choice to leave fear and go to love.
And what you're talking, again, we keep getting back to that choice word, the choice word, and the fact that you have developed conscious choice. I find that absolutely fascinating, which is something that as a therapist, I'm attempting to have people understand that they do have choices.
A Course in Miracles says that the power of choice, our free will, is our last and only true power.
That's absolutely amazing. And for those of you listening today, that's something, if you take nothing away from today, my hope is you would take away that you indeed do have a choice in your life. You have a choice in your life. The self-defeating words, the have tos, the shoulds, you needs to, you must, you want to. I'm so much interested in that. And also where they talk about, Nancy, the difference between the world of perception, which they talk about being a world of our own interpretation and often illusion, versus the world of knowledge, which comes from the divine.
Yes, it's another way to describe the thought system of fear or love. The Course uses the word perception consistently as something that I do primarily from my ego and often by projection. If there's something in me that's uncomfortable and that I don't like, guilt or something like that, I might project it out onto someone else because it's so uncomfortable for me that I need to get it out of me. And so somebody out there has to be wrong. And then the other word that parallels perception is knowledge. And again, A Course in Miracles uses knowledge consistently to mean knowing from experience, actually having it shown to you by making a choice to go toward love and being still and essentially allowing wisdom to come to you. And then you know it. You don't really go study it. You might study how to prepare yourself to be quiet or to be still or to be open so that you can hear it, but you don't really learn this kind of knowledge from book kind of stuff.
No, this comes from action and effort, and I find many parallels between what the Course in Miracles talks about and the 12-step recovery world where I'm from, which involves a change in your thoughts and your actions, and some radical acceptance and understanding that it's not so much as what can be changed in the world as what can be changed in you and your attitudes.
Yes, exactly.
Those action type of steps that we take where we take a personal inventory and we actively seek not only to forgive others, but however, the main thing is to accept forgiveness for ourselves. And quite often in 12-step recovery, there's two purposes. It's to fit yourself to be of maximum service to the Creator and to your fellow man.
There's many people in our Course in Miracles groups who are graduates of the 12-step process. And in fact, a lot of them would say that they consider A Course in Miracles the next step after Alcoholics Anonymous. And so it does dovetail very well. There's a lot of preparation that's done in the 12-step program that then moves to A Course in Miracles, which expands on it even more, gives you deeper, more congruent tools.
And what I like is when they talk about is shifting your perspective from the physical to the spiritual, and that we're not really paying attention to who we are.
Well, we come to know that we're actually the way our Creator made us, which is true and innocent and perfect. And so when we know that, we live from that space, and you don't have to pay so much attention to it, because how do you have to attend to perfection except share it, extend it?
So how do you incorporate in this life? Let's say a neophyte comes in and is interested in what we're talking about today. How would you direct a person to get involved in the Course in Miracles if they have nowhere to start from?
Well, the easiest, most direct way is to get a copy of the book and start in somewhere. And where you start is actually up to you. You can start with the text, or you can start with the workbook lessons, or you can thumb around and see what's there. If you like or would want some other support, there are listings online of local Course in Miracles groups that are ongoing and regular, so that you can join with other people who are doing this. There's many teachers who are now providing their materials online by internet, just like you watch YouTube's videos. There's lots of teachers who do that. The one that I am familiar with here, and what brought me to Massachusetts, is the Teachers of God Foundation and the 40-day transformation program, which is an online delivered program that just completed. It starts January 1st or May 1st or August 1st. And for 40 days, you get a written lesson, a video message, and some guidance on how to essentially jump in with both feet. And then you're still directed back ultimately to the book, to the text, and to the workbook lessons to really be grounded. But in truth, it's said, and I'm sure it's true, that if you actually fully received and knew any single lesson in the workbook, you'd be done. And so it's
Could you talk to us a little bit about a couple of the lessons, what they involve, what they ask you to do?
well, the one for today is God is the love in which I forgive. So it gives us a few paragraphs of introduction, and then it basically says that you would close your eyes and repeat that idea to yourself. And then you would say, you would look around in your thought system for anyone that you feel you haven't forgiven for any reason. And there's no degree of forgiveness. It basically says anyone that you think you don't like could be someone that you need to forgive or want to forgive. And then what you do is you say, God is the love in which I forgive you, Peter, or whomever you are speaking of or thinking of. So you say that to yourself, and you do that for a few minutes. Look in your thoughts for who's there. And then you say, God is the love in which I forgive myself. And then you repeat or say some of the other kind of statements that support that, like, I'm a child of God, I can't be guilty. Or God is the love in which I'm blessed. And it basically gives you a 5-minute practice period, which it asks you to do 3 times a day. And then it suggests that any time during the day that you notice that maybe there's someone that you don't feel like you're in good relationship with, that you can say this silently in your mind to them and let it do its thing.
And it takes active involvement on your part, the participation in the action and effort in doing this, not just mouthing words. We're big believers in, quite often I'll take the students to with different faith-based type of organizations like mosques, synagogues, Hindu temples, 12-step recovery meetings, and particularly the Jewish rabbis have a method of 100 blessings a day. And it's easy for me to bless my son or my daughter or my grandchildren or my cat. Well, not one of my cats, not the other one. However, it's a little bit more difficult for me to bless someone who has wronged me, someone who I have a deep resentment against. When I ask God, I wish them well and I forgive them. I wish you well. I offer you love. I offer you forgiveness. We attempt to do that, and what I'm hearing is much of the same.
Yes, and forgiveness actually has a little different meaning in A Course in Miracles, in that we're taught gradually until it tends to be able to sink in that essentially, since we've made up most of this world, that there really is not anything to forgive, that you're basically aiming to be able to see the truth in every other person and in yourself, in which case all the craziness just dissolves in the light.
Yes, I was interested. It said that forgiveness doesn't exist in heaven. It only exists here on earth. So could you share with us a little bit about what meaningful benefits had in your life, Nancy? What real tangible things have you seen?
Well, I've gotten much better at allowing guidance, not being the one who thinks I have to be in control, being aware that when I think I have to take care of everything by myself, that I'm essentially trying to usurp God's role, which is pretty silly when I frame it that way. And for instance, when my mother needed to go into a nursing home, I said at one point, Spirit, I have no idea how to get Mom from home to another care facility, but I'm really in need of having this happen now. And it turned out that it went extremely smoothly and easily. My sister was at the house the day that we got a call from a waiting list for one of the houses, one of the assisted living locations. We were scheduled to go see a different one that day, so we were both able to go together to both of those places. And the one that we ended up choosing, which was the one that said there was an opening, told us that there was an opening right that day, and my mother had gone to that location for senior daycare, so she was actually physically already there. The administrator basically told me, even though it's Friday, you don't have to come get your mom. She can just stay here. Go home and bring her clothes here, and we'll do the paperwork on Monday. So I'd never had to do the thing that's in my mind was the most horrible, which was to leave my mother for the last time anywhere that wasn't going to be her house. That had already been done as though I were leaving her for daycare. Later, one of the aides told the administrator that my mother had kept saying all day long, "I'm staying, where's my room? I'm staying here, where's my room?" So it just felt very guided and much easier than if I had worked my usual too hard to make it happen.
So could you end us up with what is a day like in the life of Nancy Fitzgerald? What is a day like?
Well, I'm up and on the couch by 7:30 in the morning, where I co-facilitate a morning conference call for A Course in Miracles. We do a workbook lesson together, and we read from the text. We started it more than a year ago, and we've been all the way through the text and all the way through the workbook lessons once. A lot of people come and go. Some of them don't stay too long. Some of the people who went all the way through last year are still with us, and we've picked up newbies. So there's some experienced people, and there's some people who are starting new. I would then usually sit at my computer and connect with whomever I'm connecting with. I have a pen pal who's been released from prison that I keep up with daily. I keep in touch with a couple friends from Florida who have special needs, and occasionally am in contact with them. I may read something that's of interest to me. I just finished The Afterlife of Billy Finger, based on a true story, where a bad boy brother gave his sister proof of his being able to connect with her from the other side. And it was all documented in the book. What else? One night, I go to a senior yoga class once a week. I co-facilitate a Sunday noon Course in Miracles group live at the local Unity Church. I go for myself to the Friday morning Course in Miracles group that Lisa Natoli and Bill Free conduct nearby. I might pick up a special seminar or visit. I've been able to see in person Esther Hicks, John Mundy, who teaches A Course in Miracles, Carol Howe, who wrote Bill Thetford's autobiography. So I have time and opportunity to choose those kinds of activities.
Do you have people you love in your life, Nancy?
Absolutely.
Do you have people that love you?
I'm sure I do.
Then you indeed are a fortunate woman.
Yeah.
Any thoughts that you have, Alex, that you'd like to direct to Nancy?
I was wondering what you found to be one of the more difficult lessons of the course for you to get through and act on.
I think for me, one of the things that's still in the leading edge of what I'm working on is the idea that whatever the irritation or the agitation or the upset, it's all basically about me. That my job is to see the other person and say, "You're my perfect savior, I release you." In other words, now bring it back to me. So what is it about me that believes or misbelieves whatever I'm projecting onto that person? So if I'm thinking that they are isolated, for instance, if I'm criticizing somebody else and I realize, oh, it's really not about them, it's about me, then I can bring it back to me and look at it and think, okay, I've just said about this person this, and this. What about that fits me? What about me is isolating? What am I still hiding or keeping separate? And so the last lesson for me is is still to bring it back to me and allow those misbeliefs which get in my way to be undone.
Thank you.
Ashley?
Thank you, Nancy, for sharing. I'm just curious about, I guess, the people that do this miracle course. Are the age ranges older, young, wide, fast?
It does tend to be older people, probably 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. There's a few younger people. Maybe those people have a group that has more young people than the ones I tend to go to. But it does tend to be a range. I think it often takes a certain amount of pain and life experience, and sometimes hitting bottom to get to the place where you think you need anything like this. Until then, you just sort of go ahead and do it until you can't do it. So I think that tends to bias it a little bit older. It can be a mixed group, but it's often more age biased. And in the groups that I'm in, they tend to be fairly homogeneous. Online though, on the online access courses, it's actually got an international reach. So you can have people in Guatemala and Australia and England and Canada at the same time. And so in some ways you get a conversation on the private Facebook page that's more mixed up, with a more variety of perspective.
In 12-step recovery, Nancy, we call that beaten into a sense of reasonableness, not necessarily a physical beating, but prepare yourself, be in a state of reasonableness, to have honesty, open-mindedness, and the willingness to try.
Yep.
Any further thoughts? So Nancy, do you have a website? How would somebody contact you?
I actually don't at this point have a website, but if they wanted to send me an email, they could do it at N Meyer, M-E-Y-E-R, Fitz, F-I-T-Z, at yahoo.com.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us today, Nancy. You are a delight. And as always, we give a free prescription at the end of every podcast. Fruits, nuts, and vegetables. Unplug your television, perhaps be in recovery from the news, and take up fishing. And for a truly mindful experience, we ask that you fish without bait, a lifetime without definitive expectations. Until then, your assignment, as always, is to do a kindness for yourself and a kindness to others. Until then, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, you're clear.
We done?
You're done.
Nancy, that was great. Thank you so much.